After decades of being a Dragon Ball fan, and recently playing one of the best games of the past year, Black Myth Wukong, I figured it was finally time to actually read their source of inspiration, Journey to the West. So what better time than now to play yet another game based on this classic tale, one I've meant to play for years. So I picked up a copy and got started on Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. When I first heard about this game, my curiosity was piqued since it draws inspiration from the same source material as Dragon Ball. That said, I went in expecting more of a direct adaptation of Journey to the West, but the connections are actually pretty loose, mostly limited to a few character archetypes and some minor thematic elements. The game takes place in a post-apocalyptic America, where most of humanity has been wiped out and the few remaining survivors live in scattered settlements defending against machines seeking to enslave them. The game kicks off when our main character, Monkey, is freed from a slave ship by a young woman named Trip. After escaping the crashing vessel, Monkey wakes up to find himself enslaved.
He said it!
While he was unconscious, Trip slapped a device on his dome that compels him to obey her commands, with the intention of using his strength to help her survive the journey home. As they navigate the devastated landscape and fend off the machines, Monkey and Trip grow as survivors and as individuals through their evolving bond. The game plays as an action-adventure, blending combat, stealth, and light environmental puzzle solving. Monkey and Trip each bring their own strengths. Monkey handles the heavy lifting with combat and traversal, while Trip offers support with her gadgets. She can scout ahead using a hacked mechanical dragonfly to spot environmental hazards and objectives. She additionally hacks doors that block their path. These actions trigger automatically when you reach specific areas, but players can also manually select additional support abilities as they're unlocked throughout the story. In stealth-focused sections, Trip can distract enemies with a holographic decoy, giving Monkey the opportunity to reposition and take out threats, or distract threats himself and signal her when it's safe to move. She can also heal Monkey with serum when nearby, although I found this function wholly unnecessary since Monkey's health can be upgraded to regenerate over time. All of Monkey's upgrades are enabled through Trip, meaning he needs to be with her to access the upgrade menu. From there, players can spend tech orbs, collected by defeating enemies or exploring the environment, on enhancements for Monkey's combat abilities, health, shields, and staff. Combat upgrades expand his arsenal of combos, counters, and stuns. Health upgrades raise his max HP and enable regeneration. Shield upgrades generally boost its overall durability and effectiveness. And Monkey's staff, perhaps counterintuitively, can be used as a literal boomstick, and can be upgraded with various enhancements to its plasma and stun blasts, turning it into a surprisingly effective ranged weapon. Together, these combat enhancements make Monkey feel well-rounded and fun to play, and landing that final slow-mo finisher on an enemy is always stylishly satisfying. Monkey's strength and agility let him scale the ruinous terrain with swift, animalistic precision. He can also hoist Trip up to ledges that are too high for her to reach, or toss her across gaps too wide to jump. She doesn't always stick the landing though, so you'll need to quickly leap over and pull her up to safety. These traversal segments often split the pair along adjacent paths, requiring them to open routes or bridge gaps for one another. The environmental puzzles aren't particularly difficult, but they serve as narrative tools, pushing the story forward and setting the stage for action or stealth sequences where Monkey and Trip must rely on each other. In that way, the gameplay reinforces the story's themes and their growing partnership. Some action sequences even mix things up with special mechanics, like manning turrets, or more interestingly, using Monkey's cloud. This hoverboard-like device lets Monkey glide swiftly and stylishly across terrain, including skimming over water, using ramps to launch across wide gaps, evade enemies, or even chase them down in high-speed segments. In addition to the main story, the game features a prequel DLC starring Monkey and Trip's porky pal, Pigsy. In this solo adventure, Pigsy roams the wastelands, scavenging parts to cure his loneliness by building his perfect companion. The gameplay swaps Monkey's brawler style for slower-paced stealth, gadget use, and sniping, emphasizing clever movement and distractions over direct combat. For vertical traversal, Pigsy uses a grappling hook to ascend or descend terrain. Pigsy specializes as a sharpshooter, picking off enemies from long range, but he's not helpless up close. He's equipped with a short-range EMP device on his wrist, just in case he's caught with his pants down, letting him stun enemies and follow up with his mid-range gunfire. What really makes his gameplay stand out though are his gadgets. Like Trip, Pigsy has a holographic decoy which he can chuck to distract enemies. He also has chuckable EMP blasts that temporarily disables enemies in its radius. His final two gadgets are deployables that can be placed and manually triggered. A standard bomb, pretty self-explanatory, and a love bomb, which temporarily turns enemies within its range into allies. Overall, this DLC is smaller in scope, more lighthearted in tone, and offers a fresh perspective on the world, both thematically and mechanically. The base game and DLC each stand out on their own, and could almost feel like entirely different games if not for their shared world. The distinct gameplay in the DLC actually helps enrich the world building of the larger narrative, but what really impressed me the most about the whole experience were the cutscenes. The DLC's cinematics have their own unique stylization, but the base game's cutscenes are downright impressive. Right from the start, when we see the first real bit of character acting, I was blown away. For a 15-year-old game, I wasn't expecting to see animation and performance capture that could give some contemporary quadruple A titles a run for their money. And then, after collecting a few of those hidden masks, which give Monkey eerie glimpses of the world before, I realized why it all looked so good. None other than the legendary Andy Serkis was involved, bringing his expertise from The Lord of the Rings straight to Ninja Theory. A studio already deeply interested in performance-driven storytelling, having had already used motion capture in Heavenly Sword, and would later take it even further with Hellblade. For a bit of context, Andy Serkis is the homie who didn't just help legitimize motion capture as a real performance medium with Gollum, he went on to revolutionize the whole art form in the recent Planet of the Apes films, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes through his production company, the Imaginarium Studios. I've already alluded to the fact that much of the game's structure is built in service to its narrative. From game design that requires cooperation between the main characters, to their ongoing dialogue during quieter moments of gameplay, the story is always front and center. And when I got to the credits, I noticed yet another notable talent attached to this game, Alex Garland, as the lead writer. You might know him from cinematic masterpieces like Ex Machina, Annihilation, 28 Days, Weeks, and the upcoming 28 Years Later, among others. While this game definitely benefited from having such superstar talent, no game is ever perfect, and some of my criticisms are more about the limitations of the time than outright faults. Combat can feel a little imprecise compared to contemporary offerings, and the camera occasionally snags on the environment during more chaotic encounters. Tech orbs scattered around the environment felt like an unnatural distraction, especially in a game so focused on story. Overly prominent action prompts always just look out of place to me. Boss fights are also pretty easy, mostly boiling down to simple patterns and waiting for an opening. Between Monkey and Trip, there are 3 DLC skins, which are no longer available outside of the digital-only Premium Edition. And a less serious gripe? Monkey's idle pose. I mean, my guy looks like Quasimodo after slamming a full blast of TRT. Now this next point, I'll try to walk around without spoiling anything, but there's one moment in the game where a simple video file is used. And for the record, I'm not opposed to the use of live-action footage in games, but in this instance, I found it to be a bit ineffective. Andy Serkis appears with a flat, almost sad expression against what looks like a cheap poster background, and the whole thing feels unintentionally awkward. It ends up undercutting what should have been a much more impactful moment. Overall, despite a few minor flaws, the game remains an underappreciated gem, and it feels like a perfect candidate for a remaster on modern consoles, allowing it to iron out some imperfections and reignite interest in a title that I believe was intended to have a sequel. Unfortunately, this desire might be a bit of a long shot, as director Tameem Antoniades has mentioned that the Horizon series has sort of claimed the aesthetic. So while I'd love to see a sequel or even a remaster, my hopes aren't exactly high. Tameem and Ninja Theory have since moved on to create other great works, but playing this game has already motivated me to pick up a copy of another Ninja Theory classic, Heavenly Sword. But I'd like to hear from you guys. Have you played Enslaved, and would you like to see it brought back on modern hardware? If you've enjoyed what you've witnessed here today, I'd appreciate if you left a like and subscribe, and if you're so inclined, check out some of my other content. And as always, I hope you'll join me in the next one. I've been Pungent Funk. Keep it funky, fellas.